Hello, welcome back. We're continuing our discussion of A Course in Miracles as a thought system that we learn one lesson at a time under the guidance of our inner teacher. Okay, yes, just that. That's the way that this works. And specifically, we're in chapter 6 of the text, section 5, and we're looking at the lessons of the Holy Spirit. So in the last video, we took a comprehensive look at the first lesson, to have, give all to all. And today it's to have peace, teach peace, to learn it. So we'll say some more about what's meant by that. But first, let's talk about why all of this appears so difficult. The basic ideas behind A Course in Miracles are not difficult at all. God is, being one of them. Only God is. Simple. Points directly to the truth. And it's not difficult to learn unless we make it so. Other concepts, ideas leave not their source. Of course, because only God is. So how could ideas, i.e. the thought of God, leave its source? It can't. It never has. You've never left your source. Who are you? I think you know. You do. You do know. You do know. Again, let's let that sink in. Things are not as they appear here in the world, are they? And because you're watching this, you know, you've instinctively, intuitively, gut level, deep down known this for a long time. And here you are answering the call. That's excellent. Excellent. Yeah. Other ideas that are very simple that we make extraordinarily complicated, and there is no world. All of this is not our real home. That certainly appears to be. We've certainly made it so. But let's take a look at how this happens and how we perpetuate it. Understand that it's not a worthwhile endeavor to spend your time, and the ego wants you to spend your time this way, figuring out how it all began in the first place and attempting to make sense of this apparent condition of separation. So the ego wants us to go all the way back and examine, how did we actually separate in the first place? At what point did we ever decide that we wanted to go off and party at somebody else's house, leave heaven behind because somebody else had better snacks or something like that? And we are tempted here in the world to try to figure that out, but we find we cannot figure that out. Why? It never occurred. It never happened. There is not any separation, and there has never been any separation. So what we appear to see here in the world, what we call our lives as a human being, all of this is, in fact, a dream. It's an illusion from which we're waking up. And the question remains for us, how quickly do we want to wake up? Are we ready to accept what this course refers to as atonement for ourselves? Now, it's not atonement in the sense that you may think of it here in the world of getting revenge on somebody. It's not about revenge, because there is no separate other upon whom to give revenge, and nobody has harmed you. The essence of the atonement is that the separation never occurred. And when we acknowledge and accept this, that's accepting atonement for ourselves. There has never been any separation of any kind. So we hear this idea again and again because we need to hear it again and again. And why? Our mind is conflicted. Here in this state where we appear to be this thing called Homo sapiens sapiens, which in itself is just a collection of sounds, a label that we've assigned and agreed on would be who we are. It's actually not who we are. Who we are is, in fact, beyond all labels of any kind. As one with God, God is beyond all labels. Even the word God is just a collection of sounds that we're using to refer to our source, reality, truth, which is beyond all concepts completely. It can be experienced. In other words, known. So when the Course talks about knowledge, it's our natural state where we simply know God. Our conflicted mind is unable to see this. Therefore, we suffer. And in this particular section of the text, the Holy Spirit's thought system is a reversal of everything that the world teaches us and indoctrinates us with. This belief in separation and individuality is, in fact, not true. So let's take the first lesson of the Holy Spirit, to have, give all to all. Well, that may not make any sense to you because your mind is conflicted. And this happens for all of us here on the path, that doesn't necessarily click because we're still torn between two ideas and two worlds, really, if you want to call it that. There are exactly two thought systems that we could choose from. One is the ego, the other is the thought system of your inner teacher, the Holy Spirit, as presented in this course. That is a choice that we can make. And we're invited to make that choice in the present moment. What happens with our conflicted mind is that we think that we've separated. And we want to believe that we have. But we also hear the call of our inner teacher to awaken. And so there seems to be a push and pull, a bit of a tug of war. It's the proverbial devil sitting on your shoulder while there's an angel on your shoulder, and they're both talking over one another as we see it here in the world, each vying and competing for your attention. But that's actually not the way it is, because the Holy Spirit doesn't vie and compete for anyone's attention. The call goes out to you, and it's, are you willing to listen? The ego, as we've seen, always speaks first. That's the proverbial devil on your shoulder that is always shrieking, frantic, anxious, certain of only one thing and correct in only one thing, that you're going to set it aside, which we're all invited to do right now. The ego's certain of that, and in that one thing only is it correct. So knowing this, it will do anything to distract you and to create further conflict and doubt in your mind, getting you to doubt what appears to be coming out of my mouth. Right? Getting you to doubt this course, getting you to doubt your inner teacher, to doubt any spiritual teacher in the world, getting you to doubt Jesus, getting you to doubt the very existence of God. There is nothing else. But the ego would love for us to believe otherwise. So we experience this conflict here in the world between these two thought systems that seem to us to be opposite. What happens with this conflict is we project it outward. We can't stand it. We don't like the push and pull. for our attention. We don't like the negative feelings that we feel when we're in conflict. So we push it out, we project it, we try to get it away from us as far away as we possibly can. And where do we project it? On those around us, on someone else, on our brother. It's his fault. It's the government's fault. It is the weather's fault. It is the economy's fault. It's always something or someone else's fault that we're miserable, and we don't assume responsibility for this misery ourselves. And that is actually where it belongs. This is a grown-up endeavor. It's an adult endeavor about taking a look at all of our drama, recognizing it as wanting, as something we do not need and we don't want anymore. By wanting, we mean it's lacking. It is not worthy of the Son of God, so we let it go. We release it. We do this under the guidance of our inner teacher with the practice that we refer to here in A Course in Miracles as true forgiveness. That's how we do it. So our conflicted mind is always suspicious of others, right? Because we see ourselves as an ego, therefore everyone else must have one too. And we're trying to get our own drama, our own negative feelings of guilt and fear and push them off onto somebody else. So we're suspicious of their motives because we're projecting our own suspicion onto them, our own fear. We're attributing our own fear to somebody else. See the backwards nature of this. To reverse it, we do the exact opposite. Rather than projecting fear, we extend love. We entertain the idea that there is no separation of any kind. Therefore, when we're looking at our brother, we're looking at ourselves. Your brother is you, and there is no separation of any kind. What's his due? Love, full appreciation. We look beyond the psychodrama and all of the things that people do here in the world and see them for what they really are, for who they really are, which is one with you. You're one with God. Who's your brother? Who are you? We're learning here in this thought system to perceive truly. We're learning to see it this way. We're learning to see our brother and ourselves at the same time for who we are, for who we truly and actually are. It's very powerful. And again, we see here in this passage of the text that we're choosing one thought system over another. One is true, the other is not. And we, incidentally, can take the burden off of ourselves of establishing truth. We don't have to do that, so let's drop the efforts to establish which one is true. God is. Truth simply is. It's been created, and we don't have to fashion it all over again. We've been created by God. So really, we don't have to engage in the additional effort of trying to establish which of these thought systems is true. We accept atonement for ourselves. Another way of looking at this is we accept the correction of our inner teacher. We accept the correction of the Holy Spirit. We accept our inner teacher's correction of our perception. We're seeing it backwards. We accept the correction of seeing it for what it actually is. When you begin to do this, it's quite a relief. And if you've truly, legitimately begun to do this, you'll know what a profound relief it is to give over everything in your experience to your inner teacher. Bring your inner teacher everything that you don't want, everything painful, forgive it. Release it to your inner teacher. He knows what to do with it, simply shines it away. It's gone. Release, release, forgive and release, forgive and release, rinse, repeat. Hence the repetition in this course, in any spiritual tradition. Even though we'd love to get away from it sometimes, and we have this culturally instilled attitude of, that's so yesterday. It's wholly and completely unhelpful on the spiritual path, isn't it? Because as adult learners, we need to see things dozens and dozens of times, or even hundreds or thousands of times. And it might be that if you're annoyed because I'm saying the same thing you've heard before 1,000 times, maybe the 1,001st time is the time that it really hits you and connects. And it's not me that's making that connection. Your inner teacher is speaking to you. Anything that connects in any of these broadcasts is, in fact, your inner teacher speaking to you. So we'd all do very, very well to listen and then act on this guidance. So the second of the lessons here in the lessons of the Holy Spirit is to have peace. Teach peace to learn it. Let's unpack that really, really briefly. And of course, we'll go on and say more in the coming days. But to have peace, the peace of God, teach peace to learn it. As we go forth in the world, we're either demonstrating one thought system or the other. In other words, we're teaching the one that we adhere to. If we adhere to the thought system of the ego and separation, then we teach separation. We exude it in a manner of speaking. We reinforce it. If, however, we adhere to the thought system of the Holy Spirit, love, and extend love, we extend love, we exude love, and everyone around us experiences love rather than separation, guilt, blame, and fear. And in this interaction with our brother, we learn what we really are by our brother's reaction, by our brother's treatment of us. What's more likely to happen if you walk down the street scowling, angry, cursing, and afraid, projecting that onto everyone you meet? At best, they're going to want to avoid you. At worst, someone may say something to you or try to start something with you, and then boom, you've got a horrid conflict. By contrast, if you walk down the very same street, seeing the very same people, and you're loving, you're happy, you're exuding love and extending love, what will people's reaction be? Well, you might get some people that are stuck in a mental fog and will just get away from you. But that'll be the worst that you would experience in that case. People will feel uncomfortable and try to get away. Well, that's on them, right? It's their stuff coming up for them. Most of the people will be all too eager to return your kindness and love. Smile and say good morning to somebody, see what happens. Even if they're mad at the time, not at you, but at someone else, then likely that's going to soften, isn't it? We're always teaching. This is how we teach. You don't have to turn on a camera and microphone, start a YouTube channel and broadcast to a global audience. That's my own particular directive. And yours can look so different. That is simply a difference in external appearance. By the way, the content of this message, extending love and forgiveness to our brother, is exactly the same. This is how we learn that we are, in fact, one with our brother, one with God. It's how we learn that we are love by teaching love, by showing love. We learn that we have it and that we've never lost it, despite our mad ravings and wanderings, which appear to show us the exact opposite. So, this statement, to have peace, teach peace, to learn it, includes a very positive step in the right direction to adopting this thought system. It means that we've taken a look at these two thought systems and we've actually made a choice of one over the other. We've chosen peace over conflict. Now, we may not have a stable experience of peace. In fact, we may be far from that right now. But what matters is we've made the choice once. We'll make it again, and our inner teacher guides us. Everything that we see here in our experience in the world is, in fact, an opportunity for true forgiveness. It is an opportunity to accept the correction of our inner teacher and see things as they are, rather than how we've made them, rather than how we would have them be. Separate, cut off, competitive, dirty, nasty, and afraid. So you might think that, okay, well, I'm not really experiencing the world as dirty, nasty, competitive, and afraid here. Maybe you're in the midst of some very positive, beautiful, blissful experiences. Perhaps you're financially comfortable, or perhaps you're in a beautiful relationship, a beautiful committed relationship, and all's right in the world. Well, what we all know is that everything that is right here in the world, like a relationship, like a financial situation, is in fact temporary, isn't it? It is. It's temporary. All of the pleasures and beautiful things that we experience here in this world of constant change don't last. They're not permanent. They're not the peace of God. So we're invited to want that, and only that, the peace of God. This is why it appears as an idea in the workbook for students, as a lesson. I want the peace of God. We're invited to want only that. Only that. And meanwhile, we may have economic safety and security. We may have fancy cars or a beautiful, loving partner. These things may arise. But to have those things is not the actual point. There are many workshops, there are many teachers, there are many practices in the world that aim to help you get, or as they say, manifest some of this: more money, a better business, a hot, sexy new partner, or something like that. And nothing against that. This course is not one of those, because it doesn't talk about that. And why would it? Its central teaching is there is no world. So why spend your time getting more stuff in the world when you could be forgiving the Son of God and escaping it entirely? So when we look out at all of this, it's all symbolic. Everything that troubles us is an opportunity for forgiveness. It's the raw material for our awakening. It's our opportunity to forgive. Everything that's beautiful is also symbolic. It's symbolic of our limitlessness as Christ. It's symbolic of our beauty. Like a gorgeous sunset is symbolic of our limitlessness, of our beauty, of our joy and happiness. And if you happen to think that when you see a beautiful sunset, all the better, right? This is a thought system that we're learning. And if it appears to be a step at a time, yeah, no problem. If it appears to be a slow process, again, no problem with that. That's what time is for. And when we begin to see how pervasive our conditioning is, how pervasive our ego clinging is, we ideally, hopefully, begin to develop some grace for ourselves, some compassion for ourselves, if you will. Not that our suffering is real, it's not, but we hopefully give ourselves a break when we don't wake up in the next 5 minutes, because there may be forgiveness lessons yet to learn. And for almost all of us, there are. So we do our forgiveness work, practice under the guidance of our inner teacher. And we escape conflict and suffering entirely. When? I don't know. Maybe in the next 5 minutes. And it might take longer than that. But again, that is what time is for. All right. So we're undoing our conflicted mind. We've taken a look at how our mind is conflicted and what happens as a result of that. And here we are in the midst of earnestly undoing that. So along the way, if you have particular questions and comments, I'm more than happy to help with those. So feel welcome to leave them here in the comment thread. The subscription button is right here, the red arrow. If you haven't subscribed yet, we'd love to have you. Please go ahead and do that. And thank you to all of you who have recently joined us. It's a growing international community, and these videos appear several times a week because, well, number one, we're going through the text of A Course in Miracles, which is 31 chapters long, and we're on chapter 6, which means more lessons, right? And it is a process that requires consistency. All of spiritual practice is. In fact, anything in life requires our consistent application. And again, this is how we learn. Things are proven to us, in a manner of speaking, if you want proof, by our doing it, by our practical application. So experience is where all of the action is in spirituality. And my hope in offering these videos is to inspire you to act, to inspire you to practice, to inspire you to change your mind, because on the other side of a very temporary inconvenience or discomfort is the peace of God. Do you want it? And I hope that you may answer yes. All right. I'll talk to you soon.